All right. Hello, hello, hello. We have to watch them come in. It's so exciting to watch our participants come in the door. The
I
quote unquote
know.
door. Yeah. Hello, hello, everybody. As you come in, please say hi to us in the chat window and tell us where you're watching from tonight. We're going to get started at the top of the hour, but we love to come online and say hello to all y'all, as Marilyn says.
All y'all.
All y'all.
Yeah, you could say all y'all like I say it. Several people can't really say that.
Marilyn, you need to make sure that in your chat you've allowed everyone to be able to chat.
It says all panelists and attendees.
Okay. Oh, there's
Helen from Idaho.
Susan from Oregon.
Susan from Oregon. Hello. I always feel like Mr. Rogers.
I know.
I need a little sweater.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to get started at the top of the hour in about 4 minutes. So as you come in, please say hi in the chat window and tell us where you're watching from tonight.
Yeah, Judy from Florida. Viorica from Edmonton. Hello, Viorica. You know, and we're coming, Lynn, we're coming to Calgary, and we're actually coming to Idaho Falls. We just set the dates today. Pittsburgh, Maureen from Pittsburgh, Carl from Maryland, Sally Kernez. Sally, hello. I want to talk to you about your house. Oh my goodness, Alex from Geyserville, Dale from Ohio.
Jenny from Melbourne, Australia. So there's a Melbourne, Australia, and a Melbourne, Florida. Who knew?
Yes, yes. Yes, hello. Martine from Reno.
Lorena. Hi, Lorena from Tucson.
Corey from Reno. Marielle. Oh, hello. I'm glad you love your personalized guided meditation.
I love mine too.
Hello, Tiff from the Big Island.
Hi, Robbie. Good to see you.
Thank you for redoing the opening to the double digit, Robbie. Wait till everybody sees it on 1-1. Woohoo.
Oklahoma, Maine, Auburn. Hi, Betty. Philadelphia, Florida,
Arkansas,
New York, Chautauqua. Oh, I had a boss that was from Chautauqua, New York, a long, long time ago. I think that's a boss.
A boss.
My first boss out of college. I loved her. She was great. Wichita, Kansas.
Kathleen from Wichita. We're
Fayetteville.
These days.
We love Fayetteville. We were just there. We had a silent retreat with our team. It was awesome.
Oh, wonderful.
It's true. Marilyn and I can be silent for a couple of days.
We were actually silent for we were silent for 2 days. And
yeah, we weren't supposed to make eye contact, but that one time I saw you looking at me.
I did.
Of course, why did I see you looking at me? Because I was looking at you.
Oh, Charlie from Concord.
Hi, Teresa.
Meredith. Hello, Meredith. We're going to be in Phoenix too.
Yeah, we're coming to Phoenix. We're coming to Indiana. We're all over the planet.
We are everywhere this next year, either with our plurk shops, our Activating the Superhuman Within You plurk shops 2-day event, or with Cryon on our 1-day event, How to Channel in association with Lee Carroll. Woohoo!
Well, we are at the top of the hour. Are you ready to start the recording, Marilyn, and get this thing rolling?
Yeah, you already started the recording, so.
Oh, okay.
Which means it will have to upload to your computer and you'll have to process it tonight.
Right. Well, let's go. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to 3 undeniable struggles that keep light workers up at night, doubting their own intuition and lacking self-confidence to thrive in today's energy. We've got some really exciting information for you. Marilyn has worked very hard on this topic. And we're going to get started here in just a second, but I think I should turn my phone off here. We're going to get started in just a second, but I just want to take care of a little bit of housekeeping before we get rolling here. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, we are live streaming. So you'll want to make sure that everything on your computer is closed except for your Zoom application. You don't even need your browser. And if you experience any freezing with your image or sound issues, usually it's on your end. Sometimes it's on our end. Always let us know. And the best thing to do is to log off and log back on. If you experience a lot of freezing with your video picture, the best thing to do is just to turn the camera off. We will post the replay, within 24 hours, immediately following this broadcast. So it'll be up and you'll be able to watch the video as well. But in the meantime, I'm really excited to get going. We've got a lot of great information, and let me think of if you have questions, we will be doing a live Q&A. There will also be at the end of this broadcast a live channeling with Adironda. So if you have questions, please have your questions pertinent to this webinar. No personal questions during this webinar. Questions about the topic that we're talking about now. And be sure to put them in the Q&A box, because if you put them in the chat box moves and I don't always see them. But if you put them in the Q&A box, it's easier for me to keep track of. So let's see, I can't think of anything else that we need to go over. With no further ado, I would like to welcome to the webinar window, to your living room, my best friend, my business partner, and one of the most amazing healers that I know, Marilyn Harper. Are you there, Marilyn?
I am here. I am right here. You know, I love your introductions. You know, it's so exciting to do what we do. I just feel blessed. We just got back from Miami. In fact, an hour ago, Joy walked into her home. I walked into my home last night, so I have my set up. She's got her home up. And it is pretty exciting to look at everything that we are creating and connect it to everything that you are creating. And Joy and I are lucky. We will have a special offer at the end before the channeling with Adironda and the Q&A with Adironda. So you might want to get a pen and paper out, because we have a really great offer to share with you. Plus, you might want to get a pen and paper just to jot down any notes. We're going to give you the websites for some places that you can go to further your experience. And we're going to give you some practice exercises that you might want to write those down. We will try to put the website links in the chat window if we can, and so then you can just click on those to go to them whenever you get ready to. You know, we travel all over the world, and we have found that there are certain similarities that are connecting people together, and those similarities are very powerful. When we accommodate that, you may want to look at what's going on in your life. We found that light workers, light plurkers, as Adironda says, play plus work equals plurk. Light plurkers, energy workers, regular people, people that have aches and pains, or people that sort of struggle with this energy that's going on right now. I mean, take a deep breath. You have to think about this energy is really intense, isn't it? I mean, yeah. Joy,
I almost couldn't get home.
Yeah, you drove. There were some problems on the road, and there was snowstorm from Denver, and it's like, woo. Life is a little intense, and according to the message that's coming in for 2019. That you are all invited to on the 1/1, it will get a little more intense next year. Change is upon us. It is about connecting with your guides, and we'll talk about that on 1/1. But in this time, right now,
and the 1/1, just for those of you who don't know, is January 1st, New Year's Day. The 1/1 is our double digit, but 1/1 is also January 1st. You'll get an invitation for that.
Thank you. Sometimes I leave my words out. I don't always speak all my words. But you understand that as we are moving into a new vibration for this planet, a new vibration for the universe. According to Adironda, there's never been a major shift of dimensions like there has been there, like we're experiencing right now, while the planet is still inhabited. That's why everything feels so up in the air. Everything feels so intense. And we're going to give you tonight, we're going to give you some really good, meaty, juicy ways that you can deal with that, and that you can sort of soar right through those changes that are coming. You know, sometimes when we're working through our life, we go into that kind of a vortex of struggle, a vortex of doubt. You know, we doubt what we're doing. We doubt our ego runs amok in our world. We just wonder what it is. I mean, if I were there in front of you, I'd say, has anybody else ever felt that way besides me? You know, we just kind of sometimes feel like we're not sure where to go, how to turn, what to do, and what to do next. And we kind of lay awake at night wondering about it. Do any of you lay awake at night ever? We're going to give you some really good tips on what to do about that.
And I think part of the challenge, Marilyn, is that, you know, we all study, we all theoretically know how to calm our mind and how to, you know, calm ourselves, right? But when, when the, what hits the fan, we forget, we kind of freeze sometimes. And I think that that's what's really important in the energy today, is to be able to actually put those tools to work and to utilize them.
It is. It's really important to have a partner or a friend or someone that you can turn to and kind of regurgitate your feelings and say, this is how I'm feeling, and have them say, well, have you tried this? And we know you know what to do, but sometimes when you're standing in the middle of the ocean, or you're swimming in the middle of the ocean and somebody sends you a lifeboat, you can't see the lifeboat because all the water's in your eyes. Or you think that the lifeboat's supposed to look a certain way, and sometimes when we're in the middle of things, you need someone else to sort of point out old techniques, some new techniques that help you balance and flow through that energy. I know Joy is probably the best sleeper I know. She sleeps really well, and she sleeps very deeply. However, when she doesn't sleep, when she wakes up in the night, she's got the tools that it takes. When you can't sleep, Joy, what is it that you do about that?
Well, there's several things techniques, I won't even call them techniques. I mean, there's several pretty easy solutions that I use. And one is, I went through a period of time where I really had a lot of anxiety. I couldn't sleep at night. And I did some research online, and I found a company called Center Point Institute. Now, we're not selling their products or anything like that, but it really did help me a lot. And they had something called binaural beats. And then, of course, I love to learn about this stuff. So I did a deep dive to figure out what the binaural beats were doing. And it's really quite fascinating, because what happens is when you have anxiety, like these are like the two hemispheres of your brain, right? The right and the left brain. And what happens is when you get to a place of fear, any place other than love, what's happening is one of your hemispheres is overtaking the other ones. That's why you don't have balance. And what binaural beats do is very slowly, they balance your hemispheres again so that you are in that place of calm. Now, I think this works great in conjunction with a lot of things like meditating and being in the peace, but especially for me, for being able to sleep, because the way that the meditations work is you just put earbuds on just before you go to sleep or when you wake up in the morning. You start off at about 30 minutes a day, and I would put them on just before I went to sleep. And then you work up after, I think, 6 weeks to 2 months, you work to an hour of listening to the binaural beats. And I did it for a solid year. It really helped me a lot. And then I got to a place where my anxiety was literally almost gone. Now, and every once in a while when it pops back up, it's funny because I can put that binaural beat music on, meditation on, and immediately I go to sleep because it's like my body says, oh, okay, good. Now we're going to sleep. Another thing that I do too is sometimes I listen to Randy's and Marilyn's guided meditation. And the one that works the best for me, and when you think about it, this makes so much sense, but it's the chakra balancing guided meditation. Because what would happen for me is I would be asleep. I'd wake up. I couldn't get back to sleep. You know, my mind would just be running over and over and over different things. Well, what was happening was my lower chakras were way out of balance. They were not spinning evenly. And what the chakra balancing guided meditation, it's about 40 minutes. What it would do, and I would do the same thing. I'd put the earbuds on my iPhone and go back to sleep or try to go to sleep. And usually within 10 or 15 minutes, I'd be asleep, and it would do the same thing. It would balance my chakras. So then even if I didn't get a lot of sleep that night, when I woke up the next morning, I didn't have that, like, you know, that feeling of a hangover almost because you didn't get enough sleep. I would feel balanced. So those were a couple of things that really helped me a lot, Marilyn, in terms of calming that chatter mind, you know, that doesn't allow us to sleep sometimes.
You know, I understand that. And I actually put the link to the HoloSync, which is at centerpoint.com, centerpointinstitute.com or centerpoint.com, just because I saw the change in Joy when she did that and in her anxiety level. And so I've started doing it. I started it in I don't know, August or September. And it's like, it took me a couple of weeks. I tried to do it last year, but it took me a couple of weeks to get used to having earbuds in when I go to sleep and having a sound. But now it's like, that's exactly what happens. It's like, I put the earbuds in and I immediately go to sleep. It's like Pavlov's dog or something, you know?
And you know, there is one other thing that I use sometimes, and that is, I don't know why, but Eckhart Tolle. I can put on any video of his, and within about 10 minutes, I'm usually asleep. And I really think that he's speaking to my subconscious, because when I wake up, I feel really great. But that's how I get back to sleep.
Well, you know, when you think of the things that keep you awake at night, and that's part of this webinar, is to give you conscious tools of things that you can physically do right now to shift your own consciousness. Because if you're not getting enough sleep, there's a problem, and there's something that you can do about it. You know, I find that what keeps me awake at night is when I've made a mistake, or when I've not been quite as pleasant as I could have been. I know it's hard to imagine that I could not be pleasant, but it's true. It is
true sometimes.
No, I'm just really, really direct sometimes. And I don't always say please and thank you. But also when I lay awake at night, I go to sleep pretty easily, especially with the HoloSync, the Awakening Prologue is what it's called. And I go to sleep well, but sometimes I wake up in the night and just turn over and over and over everything that I need to do and everything that I have. And, oh, I should have done this and I could have done that. And that's really the ego. I mean, it really is the ego keeping things all stirred up, you know, and the ego, everyone has an ego. And no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you can deny that you have an ego all you want, but it is still there. And it really consists of that feeling inside of you that makes you think less of yourself and more about all of the drama in your world. And I want to give you some really good conscious ways that you can keep your ego in control, because many times it is indeed your ego that is waking you up at night. It's your ego that is keeping things stirred up so much that you go into that spiraling vortex of rolling over and over and over and getting up and getting down. And so I'm going to give you lots of tips on what you can do if you have trouble sleeping and have trouble controlling your ego, if
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. And even if you think, oh, it's because this is not my bed, it's too hard, it's too soft, or, I'm at a retreat and I'm sleeping with someone who's snoring, or, even if you think it's not your ego because it's something outside of yourself like that, I beg to differ. I think it is still your ego, because I've found that, even I live in a very, very quiet place. So when I'm traveling, many times we'll be in a hotel room that's like right up against a freeway, and
Or the airport.
or the airport. Yeah. And so I find that these techniques work for that too, because again, I know that when I'm centered and balanced, I can fall asleep sitting up. I've done it before, I can fall asleep wherever I'm tired. So, don't think that it's just the chatter. It can be the outside stuff, the external stuff as well.
Yes, but there's several things that you can do about that. You may not be in control of the outside noise that you hear in your house or in your space where you sleep, but your ego is something that you can learn to control. I was looking through some information and I thought, one of the best books that I ever read was The Four Agreements.
Yeah.
And that book, it's very simple. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz. I don't know, Joy, if you want to type that into the chat window. If you've never heard of it, read it. Pick it up. You can probably find it in used bookstores, or you can get it online. But there's actually 5 agreements. He wrote another book, The Fifth Agreement. But the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. I mean, it's very simple. Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity and only say what you mean. That's a big one. Second is don't take anything personally. The ego loves to be the center of attention, loves to think that everything is all about you. Well, it's not. Don't take anything personally. Also, the third is don't make assumptions. I am getting better at that, as to assume that something is taken care of, something is done this way, something is done that way. And I'm learning not to assume, but to actually physically check things. Always do your best is the 4th agreement. And no matter what happens, always do your best. And the 5th agreement is actually an interesting one. It's to be skeptical. Listen to everything, learn to listen, but question everything as well. And just see what is going on truly. Another thing that you can do is to realize that, as your ego does not want you to realize this, but it's not about you. To not take it personally. Also, when you make a mistake, accept it. Say, I made a mistake. Many times I will have made a mistake, or something in our business went wrong, and I'll, lay awake and worry about it. Well, according to Adironda, we know we've got a lot of new people on right now, but according to Adironda, the worry is exact opposite of divine order. And so worry does no good. Another thing that you can do that will help you keep your ego under control is to really allow yourself to look silly. I mean, if you've ever been to any of our clerk shops or our workshops or anything else, Joy and I can get pretty silly sometimes, you know?
Just watch us dance sometime. You'll be cracking up.
Yes, yes. On one of the clerk shops we did, we play music and we sing and dance to the music. Although I always turn my microphone off. I didn't this time. So on the recording is me singing, and other people are better singers. I should always turn my microphone off. But, you know, it's also to think of your ego. Another thing that you can do to keep your ego under control is to think of your ego as another person that you can actually physically talk to. You know, it may be like a bratty little child. You know how children always know that the world may revolve around them, and in actuality, it may not. So think of your ego as something outside of yourself that you can communicate with.
You know, I want to go back to the four or five agreements real quick. I read this somewhere and I do it every once in a while, but a great reminder to yourself is just, you know, maybe even daily, is to say out loud the four agreements. I find that usually there's one that I can't remember. And it's usually that one that I can't remember that I need that day. You know, something's going on. I can't remember. Don't take anything personally. And that's what's happening in my life that day.
Yes. And usually it's the one of don't make assumptions. That's mine. You know, and you will know which one you're having trouble with just based upon that. Is that, as Joy said, it's the one you can't remember. I
was going to go back to the silliness. One of my favorite quotes was from Ford, and it is, if you can't laugh at yourself, everyone else will.
Oh, interesting. You know, another thing that you can pay attention to know that you are either ego-driven or not ego-driven is if you hear yourself telling everybody else stories about how great you are and this experience happened to you and this experience happened to you, and you tell that story over and over and over, that really is compensation for the underlying belief that you're not enough. And so it's contrary to your own reality to make yourself feel more important. And you each are so important to this planet. You are the next evolutionary step. I think I've heard Adironda say that hundreds of times. He wants everybody to get it. You are the next evolutionary step for humanity. You know, and you know, one of the things that I found in dealing with people, and it is also something that helps me sleep, is I go through being grateful. You know, in my mind, I say, well, I'm grateful for this. You know, what they used to say, I count sheep. I never understood that. But I go through in my mind what all I'm grateful for, and to feel that gratitude and breathe into it. I used to, as I felt the gratitude, I would say each word and breathe in or out on each word of what I was grateful for. And that kind of is complete opposite to your ego. And your ego may keep you up at night, but we're helping you learn how to deal with your ego so it doesn't keep you up at night. You know?
Yeah, gratitude's a big one. That's one that Oprah Winfrey talked about a lot too, is, you know, if you're having a hard time finding something good about yourself, if you're going through a period where you don't really like yourself very much, start thinking of all the things that you can be grateful for when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night. And I mean, it can be, you know, some days you have those kinds of days where it's really tough to find something, but it can be something like, you know, I've got great hair, or I like my glasses, or, you know, something, you know, I like the tree outside of my house. You know, it can be as simple as that. When you start leaning into gratitude, gratitude is, I think it's Joe Dispenza that said, gratitude is the signature that you've already created something wonderful. So if you're creating something, we talk a lot about that in our plurk shops.
Yeah, it's really a powerful thing to be grateful. In thinking of preparing for this webinar, I really looked into my sleep habits and what does keep me awake, and it really is that self-doubt. I mean, yes, some people have a disorder, a sleep disorder. They may have sleep apnea or insomnia, restless leg syndrome, or your circadian rhythms are out of whack. When your circadian rhythms are out of whack, you could do something about that. If you have been diagnosed with sleep apnea, you can do something about that besides take sleeping pills. I mean, not that sleeping pills are wrong, and I don't want to say that, because sometimes that's really important. But when your sleep systems are out of whack, out of balance, everything else in your life is out of balance as well. Another thing that you can do if you're having a difficult time sleeping, some people say to whatever you're worrying about, physically get up and take care of it. Physically get out of bed and write down. And I've done that. It's like I've woke up in the middle of the night worrying about a talk that I was doing the next day, or what was going to happen, what message I wanted to have across. And instead of going over it in my mind, I just got up, opened up the computer for 15 or 20 minutes and wrote down my thoughts, and then went back to sleep. Surprisingly, it works. They say, theoretically, the big they in the sky, say that if you take longer than 20 minutes to fall asleep, that there's a problem. So I never look at the clock anymore, because I put on my binaural beats, dive, and the awakening prologue, and I'm gone immediately. But some people say to write your to-do list for the next day before you go to bed. I think, do you do that, Joy, or have you done that?
That actually keeps me awake.
Me too. I can't do that.
Because then I think, I just get too much. Usually what I do before I go to bed is, you and I have similar patterns. I might watch like 30 minutes of just mindless TV, something funny. It has to be funny. I don't watch anything, too heady or scary at all. Or I read. I'm an avid reader, and usually before I go to bed at night, if I read for 10 or 15 minutes, I'm ready to fall asleep.
Well, and I don't read, but I can't do my to-do list before I go to bed. And if I wake up in the middle of the night and do my to-do list, that doesn't help. I do deep breathing. My mom, I heard her breathing one night, and I went in and thought, are you okay? And she does deep breathing every night, where you breathe in, hold it, and then breathe out. Just breathe in as deep as you can, and then let it out as far as you can. And that really relaxes. We did I think it was Holographic Healing 2 or 3, that we asked everybody to do that deep breathing exercise when they were going to bed. Works wonderfully. 10 or 15 deep breaths, pulling the air in and circling it back and letting it go, really makes a difference. Something else that is difficult when we're on the road like we are, but to avoid heavy meals a couple of hours before you go to bed, and no alcohol before you go to bed. You think that would put you to sleep, but it puts you to sleep in a non-restful state,
Yeah, and then you wake up like a couple hours later, and then you can't get back to sleep.
Right. When I watch TV, I always watch something that has no storyline. Now, for Joy, if you put a movie on, Joy's gone within 10 minutes. She's sound asleep and sitting up in bed. For me, I will watch a movie until 4 o'clock in the morning. Doesn't matter what I've got going on the next day. I have to put on something like The Voice or America's Got Talent. I just started watching a show that is just like nothing. It's like God friended me, and about people that do good things to with other people. It's like has no storyline, and it's the same story every time. So I can go to sleep in the middle of that really easily.
I love this, Marilyn. People are typing into the chat window what they do. Please add if you have a pattern that helps you sleep at night, please add it to the chat window. I mean, these are just the things Marilyn and I do. And I know a lot of people today struggle with being able to sleep. I read a book by Ariana Huffington. I can't remember what it was called at the moment, but it was all about how as a culture, we are sleep deprived because we are constantly told by our, place of employment or our school or whatever, that our value is in how much we do, and that sleeping is almost a bad thing. But, sleeping is when you work out a lot of things in your life, and it's really, really important. I like to sleep. I really enjoy sleeping. It's one of my favorite things. I think because I go interdimensionally and I do other work, and I really enjoy that too. I don't know for sure, but I would love to see what you like to do. Please share with us in the chat window. This is great. Gratitude.
Yes.
Yep.
Another thing that you can
channels.
do.
Yep.
What is it? I can't see those.
Oh, listening to Cryon channels, taking a hot bath or shower. I know my husband does that before he goes to bed. Cryon, fifth.
Say my prayers. Yeah, that's good.
Breathe in the essence of the masters. Breathe out your limitations. That's really nice. Don't eat past 8. Yep, that's one of mine. Meditate Kuan Yin. You mean Kuan Yin method? Contemplation of light and sound. Yep.
Epsom salt bath is also good. And listen to the sound of the rain. Kathleen, if you listen to the sound of the rain, you'll love the holosync binaural beats there. They're great. Another thing
Sleep Revolution. Yeah, that was it. That's a great book.
Another thing that people really are not so aware of is they've got so many electronics in their bedroom. They've got a big TV, they've got screens and clocks. They're all putting out EMF waves, and so that may you might cover those. When I had a television in my bedroom, I don't anymore, but when I did, I am seldom in my own bedroom, and when I did, I always covered it with a cloth. Right now, because Joy and I are in hotel rooms so much, we have a lot of electronics that has to charge overnight. But I find that we both sleep deeper if we put those chargers across the room, so be aware of that. Also, I know this sounds like a really simple thing in your bedroom. If you have a bathroom that, like in a master bedroom, they've got a bathroom door that leads right in. If you leave the door open, that energy goes through, and the bathroom is not always great energy. But if you close the bathroom door, then you'll normally sleep better. And I was reading a test that says that to stick your feet out of the covers, that scientifically they have tested that when your toes are cool, you sleep better, or you go to sleep more easily. It's like, who knew?
I think that's probably true,
Yeah. I know
I put my feet out sometimes.
I do too. Whenever I'm having trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. And also light. Light really messes with your circadian rhythms. And so a sleep mask is a good investment. I started sleeping with a sleep mask, and I can give you all the good ones and all the bad ones. Let me know. Also, I find when I check my phone messages just before I go to sleep, I don't sleep as well, And some people say to keep your pets out of your bed. I would agree with that. I don't have any pets that sleep in my bed, but you might think about that. Anything else? Any others? Methods, techniques to sleeping that are in the chat window? This is great.
Yeah. Sleepy time tea, somebody chatted that. That's another thing that I do, is have some have an herbal tea. You have to watch out for some of those teas though. If you look at the ingredients, they have natural flavors in them, and natural flavors can be a code word for chemicals or for even MSG. So you have to be careful about some of the herbal teas.
Yeah, lavender oil, that's good. I arm my feet with a blow dryer. I can't sleep if my feet are cold. Interesting. Allie, you eat a little bit of something. You know, that's true. That's what they say is, you know, something warm, usually warm milk or a cup of warm water. That helps as well. But, you know, overall, those techniques, it really is about how you deal with your anxiety and how you deal with the things that you present during the day, you know, and I think that doubt is one of the really biggest causes of anxiety, which can keep you awake. I know when I doubt what I'm doing, when I have that ego voice that says, who do you think you are? What are you doing out there? You're no expert. You know that voice. Maybe you don't know that voice. I do. You really feel like when you're dealing with an issue, when you're dealing with something specific, that like your intuition, that you really have to acknowledge that energy. You really have to learn that your intuition, your intuitive voice is your truth. And you get the opportunity in helping yourself relax and helping yourself to sleep. You get the opportunity to learn to trust that everything is working out perfectly. And one of the ways to do that is to listen to your intuition.
One last thing, Marilyn, is there's a lot of really great apps for smartphones. And one that Marilyn and I both use is called Sleep Cycle. So if you are waking up in the morning feeling tired, but you're not aware that you were waking up, Sleep Cycle will actually, I'm not sure how it actually works, but it uses your camera and your recorder, and you put it on at night, and it will actually show you the waves of how you're sleeping when you go into REM sleep, and when you're out, and when you're awake, and it will monitor it for you. And you can keep track of your food, and you can keep track of your work schedule, how many hours a day you're working, or if you're working just before you go to sleep, different things like that. And it'll help you track down anything that is keeping you awake at night. It's really powerful.
And when you're not sleeping well, then everything else in your life really, it becomes a struggle. And the human form, some people say, oh, I only need 2 hours sleep a night. I only need 4 hours sleep a night. And usually that may not be the case. They may have gotten used to 2 or 4 hours of sleep a night, but some people are, oh, I always stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning. And then, my cousin, she stays up until 4 o'clock in the morning and sleeps until 2, so she's still getting that hours of sleep, the same hours of sleep, but it's that habit that she's gotten into that can be changed. So to know that intuitively, if she were to learn to trust herself a little more, then it might be a little easier for her to shift some old habits that are no longer working.
Yeah. Well, and life is about rhythms, so if you're out of rhythm, they've done a lot of studies with people who work nights, and those people, they have to actually get in rhythms with other people that work at night, because if you are staying up all night and sleeping all day, it's even more than just your circadian rhythm. It's you're out of rhythm with the people around you as well. And when that happens, that causes all kinds of emotional issues.
Yes, it absolutely does. The circadian rhythm, that's why I started sleeping with a sleep mask, and realizing that the anxiety was because I was doubting myself. Because
right.
doubting my path. I was not listening to my own intuition. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to release the self-doubt. Is that okay? Well, we're going to talk about it anyway. uh, you know,
Do you have doubts?
not nearly as many as I used to have. Uh, your intuition, some people approach a new idea or a new thought with they ask everybody else what their opinion is, and then they take the people that have the smartest opinion in their belief and go with that. Sometimes they don't ask anybody and they just sit with it and sit with their intuition and get their answers in that way. I find that I used to ask everybody what their opinion was, and now I'm really learning to go inside and really take that problem into my intuitive guidance. And I've learned how to identify my intuition so completely that it's normally right on. I took an intuitive test, and it was the Myers-Briggs test. What is it? Briggs-Myers or Myers-Briggs?
I don't think that's not an intuition test, though. That's a personality test.
No, they've got one online that's an intuition test.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I had no
Google
idea.
it. Yeah, Google it. I
That's
took
cool.
it, and I'm like, 78% and 88% intuition. And then the rest of it was sensory. So it's so fascinating when you look at that, and when you connect in with that and learn that your intuitive guidance is really about 80% of the time or more scientifically is right. And usually your intuitive guidance is the first answer that you would get. I was looking up some information from Sarah Schweitz, and she's a psychologist, and she says that the intuition is that feeling that is like a sneaking suspicion that you feel that when something is not quite right, that you can't quite put your finger on it, that's your intuition. The intuition can be a powerful guiding force. It is, really more developed than our other senses. And in holographic healing, we teach people how to develop those sensory aspects so that they can be right on every single time and acknowledge it and know that that's what it is. It's like you're trusting your intuitive guidance 100%, and you can trust it 100% because you know what it feels like when you don't trust it, and you know what it feels like when you do trust it, and it's right on. And it's like a whole other level. Every single person is born with that intuitive sense. Every single person has the intuition, and they learn how to listen to it either at an early age, or they learn how to doubt it and question it from an early age. And that is more common than learning how to trust it from an early age. As Joy and I have worked on holographic healing, we're starting our 4th class in January. We've done 3 other classes. We've done mastery courses in meditation. And what we've done is we've learned to distinguish the difference between the intuition, our imagination, and our ego. And we teach that in How to Channel class as well. And there's really a whole series of techniques that you can learn to make that distinction. And we're going to talk a little bit about those. One thing, of course, is to ask for a sign. I'm sure if you've listened to us more than once, you've heard that my sign is a feather and Joy's sign is a heart. There's also a vibration. You've been someplace and somebody says something really surprising or astounding, and you get this tingling sensation or this chill, right? You get that, right, Joy?
Yep. I actually get kind of a guttural feeling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I get it across my shoulders. I get a chill across my shoulders and on my calves, the calves of my legs. But
Mhm.
usually, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm good.
Usually your intuition, when you're following your intuition, you'll get a really nice, peaceful feeling, and you'll feel that energy of your intuitive guidance sort of click into place. And it may actually, you may feel a little bit of a jolt or a nudge when that clicks into place. Um, some people get their information in lucid dreams. Have known lots of people that dream about something that's going to happen. Um, a friend of mine, Shoshana Ortalia, she was the most amazing. She's passed away, but she was the most amazing channel. And she would have these wonderful spirit-filled dreams that would give her a step-by-step process as to what she needed to do. One way you can increase that information is to write down before you go to sleep or state that your dreams will bring you the message that you need to receive in the morning. And sometimes that works. When I'm speaking in front of a traditional church or a new thought church, or doing a new class or something, or if I'm having uh, a message that hasn't quite dropped in yet, I will go to sleep and I will say, show me what I need to know by morning. And Joy has seen it. It's like I'll get up in the morning and open up my computer and it will all come out. Now, I know our team wishes that it would come out earlier. but it does. It just kind of moves forward. So I just need to do that 5 days before the event. Another thing that I do when I have intuitive thoughts is if I hear something 3 times in a 24-hour time period, then I know that that's what we're supposed to do. We are going back to Bimini this next August. Bimini is a tiny island in the Bermuda Triangle in the Bahamas. And we had a few people that had asked if we were going to go back and swim with wild dolphins in Bimini. And I was like, I don't know when we would fit that in. Okay, so if we're supposed to go to Bimini, I will hear people say Bimini 3 times in the next 24 hours. And I'll be darned if I didn't. I mean, it's not a common word. That people said Bimini to me. And sometimes once it came from somebody that I was in a restaurant and I was listening to it in that 24-hour time period. And they were talking about going to Bimini. It's like, okay, so we have to go to Bimini. And so, you can ask for confirmation in that capacity. Another thing that with your intuitive guidance is you want to be really careful about pushing the energy. I'm really good at pushing the energy. I don't recommend it. I really feel like when you're pushing the energy, you're not going with that flow, and there's a distinct difference. Sometimes the universe will actually see how committed you are to your path. And, you feel like there's some roadblocks that are coming up. That's different than pushing the energy and just making it happen. It will feel like it's an uphill battle. It will feel like you're swimming upstream and nothing is going to work out. And that is not relying on your intuition. Another thing is to listen to your brain more than you listen to your heart. Joy gets ideas all the time. I mean, Joy is one of the most brilliant people I know. In fact, many of the things that we do start off as Joy's ideas. I mean, in our convergence this year, she came up with the silent disco. She came up with the mandala. She came up with lots and lots of things. She has amazing ideas. But how do you know the difference, Joy, between your amazing ideas and the ones that we intuitively need to follow, and the ones that are your ego or something that's a distraction? How do you tell the difference for that?
Well, I wish I could say it was a perfect science, but it's not. I think I to me, ideas are easy, and I always say ideas are the easy part. It's implementation that's hard. Um, and I think that a lot of times in our culture, we are not necessarily, we tend to think of creativity as only coming from people like artists, musicians, and artists and musicians and writers. They're trained in creativity. Like they have exercises. I have exercises that I go through when I need to come up with ideas. And we also constantly look for ideas. We're constantly looking at other people's work and, seeing what we like and what we don't like. How do I know if it's a good idea? Intuitively, I would say that there's some ideas that stick, I just like them. And then I start trying them out on people. And it's sort of like when you go shopping with your girlfriends, you try something on, you come out of the dressing room and they don't even have to say a word. You just look at their face. If they go, "Oh my God, that looks great," you have a great outfit. But if they go, like they hesitate at all, then that, it's not the perfect thing. And that's kind of how we work with ideas. Intuitively, yeah, I would say intuitively, there's just kind of a knowing for me. I think the harder part, Marilyn, is more about like how you get your ideas. Like what you just said is really helpful for people in terms of, and I think that I do the same thing, is when I feel like I'm pushing the energy, I go out for a walk. If I'm working on something, in fact, you see it a lot when we're at events, we'll try to put together things just before we go to bed. And a lot of times I'll say, I can't do it. But I'll wake up early in the morning and do it. I need my brain to be fresh. But for me, I wanted to go back to the intuition that you were talking about a little while ago. And I said I had a guttural feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's two types of intuition that we look at. One is kind of a negative intuition, like when you feel like someone's lying to you, or you feel like something's going to happen. Intuitively, you feel like something's going to happen and you're protecting yourself. So there's an intuition that comes out of fear, right?
Right.
And for me, when I'm in a situation where, I feel like I'm not being told the truth, or I'm there, or something, bad might happen. It's a guttural feeling. I get this, it's almost like a knot in my stomach.
Yeah.
But when my intuition is coming up in terms of really great, happy stuff, I do, just like you said, I get kind of a tingling around my shoulders, in my heart. It just feels like love, it feels like when we go into heart resonance, it just feels so good that you almost can't not say something about it. You know what I mean? So I think it's really important to understand that there's two different times that you are using intuition. You're using your intuition to judge something, whether it's right for you or whether you should move forward. And then you're using your intuition sometimes in more creative ways.
And then sometimes when you're using your intuition in that capacity, that your ego will come up with resistance to something, and you get to the opportunity to use your intuition to see if this is resistance to something new, or if this is a reality of something that you get the opportunity to evolve through or evolve from. And so that's always a good indication for me. I know for me, when I take it into the silence. I'm a big proponent for meditation, and I really think that meditation and the stillness that is within you can really provide you with those answers. And I'll take a question or information down in meditation and then come out, and many times we'll write a whole process that came in during that meditation. And that's kind of, the stillness is your friend, and it's very powerful. Another way that you can develop your intuition is to keep a journal or a little notebook, that when you catch yourself with an intuitive thought, or you catch yourself in a synchronistic moment, which many times is stimulated by intuition, that you jot it down and then go back to that moment and identify what it felt like in your body. Did it resonate? Did it tingle? Did it feel like anything? Did you sense it? Did you see something? Did you hear something? Did you have a knowingness? And the more you know your emotional body, the more you know that core essence of you, the easier it will be to develop that intuition. I learned that when I have an intuitive message, specific message about something I need to do or not to do, it comes from a really specific place in the back of my head. When I have a confirmation, I feel a vibration. And that, those kinds of things are really important. It's also something that we teach in holographic healing. And with that, the stronger you can work with your intuition, the more likely you are to not spin out of control, the more likely you are to sleep at night, the more likely you are to allow that intuitive vortex to expand, and not the egoic vortex to expand. Another thing is that the intuition helps you to learn that you get the opportunity to be very present.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is intuition comes from that space of presence, because otherwise you're either planning for the future or worrying about the past.
Exactly. And what if, I hear it all the time. People say, well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? What if doesn't exist yet?
Right. Well, except that when you say it out loud like that, you're creating it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're creating that what if, know, and that adds to your stress. Another thing that I discovered in our silent retreat, we had some art books and we could color. And I thought, golly, it's been years since I've actually colored. And while I was coloring from these books, I found I got really creative thoughts about the pathway to holographic healing, or something new that we were going to add to our process. Well, that's from that creativity feeling. From that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but from that, the whole superhuman, activate your superhuman, the workshops that we're doing went from working with the mastery, the new human, to the superhuman that is within you. I mean, didn't that come from that creative outlet of stillness?
Absolutely. That's when you get your best ideas. But the key is you can't go into it saying, okay, I'm going to meditate to get a good idea. It does not work that way. You make a habit of meditation, and in the meditative practice, the ideas start flowing.
Exactly.
I've had people, in fact, I remember we had a channeling class. I can't remember where it was, the how to channel, even if you think you can't. And somebody said, so how do I do this to get good ideas? And we had a whole conversation around that. It's one of those things that you don't want to do it just to get good ideas, but you will get really great ideas. Oh, here's why. I just heard it. It's because if you go into meditation, my intuition just kicked in. If you go into meditation, asking, for a good idea, you're not meditating.
Right.
You're not being present right at that moment. The idea is to just go into that space of presence, and then whatever was swirling around in your head pops in.
It is amazing. I was reading an article, and they said that people receive 16 hard drives worth of data every single day.
Wow, that's a lot.
I know. I thought, no wonder. But at the same time, it takes practice to let all those hard drives of data flow over you and not get caught in your energy field. And that really takes practice. It really takes the practice of using your intuition and learning what it feels like when you can trust it, and learning what it feels like when you can't trust it, and that is really where the confidence comes in.
And you also have to be careful with that hard drive of data, as we say in California, a hard drive of data, because we're creatures of habit. I mean, our brain is made to create patterns. And so a lot of that data, we're just on autopilot with. When you think about, you brush your teeth, you don't really think about it. You make coffee, you don't really think about it. Sometimes it's almost scary. You've driven to work or you've driven to the post office and back, and you just realized you drove there and back without really even ever thinking about what you were doing.
Exactly. And those are the two basic things that this webinar is helping you to work with. One is how to avoid sleepless nights, and two is develop your intuition so it can work for you, and three is to develop your self-confidence so you can let go of your sleepless nights, so you can live by your intuition. And that is really a new avenue. That is really a new, we know that self-confidence is important. We also know that we're trained from the time that we're very young not to be confident, I think, many times. Even really great homes are that way. And it really starts with the awareness to develop your self-confidence, and to be confident in your intuition, to be confident in the world that you're creating, to be confident in your own talents and your own skills. And awareness is really the key. I remember, I think it was 2012, maybe 2013, when during one of the double digits, we do a double digit broadcast every month on the double digit of the month, the 111, 22, 222, 33, 44, 55. We have, anyway, those broadcasts, in one of them, I think it was the 222 years ago, Adironda brought in the bracelet. It brought in the awareness bracelet. I actually have 3 on. I've changed them a few times today. That is the awareness of your own self-limiting beliefs, your own self-limiting programs. And the idea with the awareness bracelet, and these are available on our website, or I think we have a special on them this month, that the idea is that when you have that self-limiting thought, you have that idea that is not serving you, that thinks, oh, what am I doing out here? Change the bracelet to the other wrist. And sometimes you may change a bracelet to the other wrist 100 times in an hour, but that will help you be aware of the habit that you have of those old self-limiting beliefs. And awareness is the key to stopping it, is the key to reprogramming. And another confidence builder is to never confuse memory with facts. In holographic healing, I know that it's a tricky thing sometimes, and you have to really learn to rely upon that intuitive connection. But even with an intuitive connection, that can stimulate a memory of yourself, that if you're working with a client, you don't ever want that to filter the information that you're providing. And when you confuse the memory, your memory, with the facts that are presented, that deflates your own self-confidence. It's really about trusting your intuition. It's really about being able to tell the difference between your intuition, your reality, your ego, and all of that, which is exactly what we teach. And then it's about understanding that your own filter can come into play if you allow it. You know, when your own filter comes into play, then what you're presenting is not reality. What you're presenting is a different, um, a, a skewed perspective. Um, you know, I used to work with someone, and she would tell people without invitation what's wrong with them, and it was seldom correct, because she would get her own personal opinion mixed up in that, and she was having those kinds of issues, not the person that she was talking to. So you really do have to understand, and it really takes practice in trusting your intuition. It really takes practice on working enough that that program is effective, that you recognize when you're having an intuitive thought as opposed to your own memory or imagination. You recognize what happens, and then you learn that you can have the confidence in that to trust. There's, you know, I was doing some research about this. Oh, look, I've got the test for the Myers-Briggs intuitive development. I copied the I'm going to put the intuition. There is a Myers-Briggs.
Put
I
it in the
knew I
chat.
saw it somewhere because I took the test. I thought, this is cool. So I put the information in the chat window. Did I interrupt your thought, Joy?
No, I was just laughing.
You know, all human beings, including you, have the ability to go into a deep sense of their own mind, using beyond all of our 5 normal senses. And in this new dimension that we're in and that we're moving into more deeply, that is the sensory aspect of what is so powerful. And I mean, it's, some of the techniques are not new. One of the techniques that we teach, in fact, holographic healing level 3 was all about remotely viewing inside the body, and how to work, but how to look inside the body, how to see what the inside track was, and then how to rearrange it. And that is really about remote viewing. It's really about placing your attention, your intention, your energy somewhere that your physical body is not. And there's all kinds of people that charge huge amounts of money to learn how to remote view. I mean, when I talk huge amounts of money, like $10,000, $12,000 to learn how to remote view, when that's really one of your natural skills. You just have to develop those muscles. And so that's kind of how I look at one of our jobs, is to help people develop those muscles so they can see, sense, feel, hear, and know what is not directly in front of them in the physical, and be able to be prepared for what's coming or what's happening. You know, the military, they used remote viewing in World War II and the Vietnam War. They called it the Stargate Project. And it was really about going behind enemy lines, and they would see the documents so they could be a step ahead. You know, the remote viewing technique is really so simple, because fact, everything is energy, right? Fact, intention is everything, right? And so with your intention, you can shift your and practice, you can shift your own sight sensing and go somewhere else and see, check in on your kids, check in on your family, check in on your spouse or your children, check in on your parents, to just see how they're doing, to connect. It was I guess on a subconscious level, that's what I did when I first started working with Joy, is because I would sense her, and when she was having a little trouble, and I would call her. And don't you think, Joy?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's what made me a believer. And the way it would work is, I pick up the phone, hello, and you'd say, what's going on?
And then Joy would be like, blah. And you can do that remote viewing through meditation. You can do it through subconscious, uncovering the layers of baggage like anxiety, depression, phobia, addiction, everything else that's going on in your world. True remote viewing requires a certain mastery of the mind. However, it's your mind. I believe you can learn everything. I believe that the human body was designed to use their remote viewing, to use their sensory perception, and that it's just a muscle, just like any other muscle. And there's ways that you can practice it. I was reading an article, I think it was on the plane, about remote viewing or something. And it was like they said the difference in remote viewing was to practice the exercise of either identifying what it is that you're sensing or seeing or hearing, and then describing the sound of it. They used an example, and I wrote the example down. One of them is when you're taking a walk, okay, and you want to remotely view something, the muscle that you're using when you're thinking about identifying what it is that you're hearing, you might use a phrase of, I hear the sound of my sneakers on the gravel driveway. I hear the piercing bark of a chihuahua from the neighbor's backyard. I hear the sound of a gentle breeze going past my ears. I hear a low droning of a plane overhead. I hear cheerful music sounds of birds singing in the trees. Now that is the identifier, but the remote viewing muscle comes more from that sense of feeling, comes more from that sensory input. In other words, instead of I hear the gravel underneath my sneakers, you feel the crunch, 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 and that stimulates that energy. You hear, instead of the chihuahua barking, you would hear, arf, arf, and to change it into describing what it is, the emotional input, instead of describing it in words. And that technique will actually lead you into remote viewing. So, tomorrow when you take a walk, start feeling that energy of what's happening around you without describing it in words. I mean, it's an interesting technique. Another technique that I love in remote viewing is to pick an address out of your neighborhood or address out of the phone book, and go to that space and start sensing and write it down what that house or what that building or whatever looks like, and start connecting the details. And that's where, if you start describing it in a lot of detail, that's when your imagination kicks in. If you say blue house with a lot of pointy things, that's probably your remote viewing. There's a difference in the energy. Go ahead.
I was going to say, another one that I've been kind of playing with lately is I turned the sound off of my navigation on my car. And I try to, I still use the navigation because I want to get there fast. I want to make sure that I know exactly, but I play with it too, because what I'll do is I'll intuit you know, what's the next turn? Which direction am I headed? And then I'll check on my phone and see if I'm right. But it's another way to play with your intuition, because it's all about practice. I mean, as many ways as you can play around with intuiting things. I've watched Marilyn for years, and that's really what she does, is she's constantly building her intuition muscle.
You know, and when you do, that's where the self-confidence comes in. You know, I may still question it, but I ask for confirmation. That's where the confidence comes in. And once you learn that, it serves you so well. That's how I developed holographic healing. Is
Right.
we did the 21 days to optimal health, which was a 21-day program where I used it to lose weight and it worked. and people on the program, they lowered their insulin for their diabetes. They straightened up their back. They did all kinds of things for optimal health. And it was just a little meditation program that we did. And then I took that and developed holographic healing, which is a trademark certifiable healing technique that I'm teaching, we're doing, Joy and I are teaching, Joy and I are working and building a certified program. And I'm telling you, it has worked like a banshee. It surprises me how well these techniques of remote viewing, the techniques of meditation, the techniques of going into your Akashic records, that's what holographic healing level 2 is about. How I've seen time after time again, people avoid surgery using their intuitive muscles, their remote viewing, and with their intention only, rearranging their own physical body. With my intention only, Joy can attest to that. I've dropped like 3 or 4 sizes of clothes. I don't know that I've lost a lot of weight, because I decided that it wasn't about losing the weight. It was about what I looked like. And it's so, and it worked. It worked. It was great. And that brings us to part of our special offer tonight is really holographic healing level 4. And it is called Practicing Mastery. And I don't know of any other facilitator that will do what I do for 21 days. And what happens is I get online with you, Joy gets online with you every day for 21 days. And we have an intensive course called Holographic Healing that incorporates a part of it of your stress level, that letting go of your stress level, that incorporates your, magnifying your intuition so strong that you can trust your knowledge when you look into someone else's body or you look into your own body, and start rearranging things. It is so, I impress myself. I do, because I've seen it be successful time and time again. And it's a technique of remotely viewing inside of your body, taking the emotional component of imbalance, the emotional component of some part of your physical space that's out of balance, and knowing exactly what to do to put it in balance. And most of the time when you go to a remote viewing class, which the one that I looked at was like $8,000, I think. I looked at another health intuitive class, and the class itself, level 1, started at $2,450, and I'm like, and then you have level 2, level 3, level 4. Those courses are wonderful courses, but Joy's and my philosophy is we really like to make everything available to anyone. And we believe so strongly in a holographic healing that we've decided to take the only 21-day time period that we were not traveling, and we actually added another trip in the middle of it. But and teach a holographic healing level 4. There's actually 5 levels. It's a certified course. You can be certified in the technique of holographic healing, or you can just take it for yourself because you like. It includes 4 evening classes that are video classes, kind of like this, and 17 half an hour, maybe 45-minute. We're trying to keep them to half an hour morning classes, because sometimes people can come in the evening and sometimes people can come in the morning. And of course in Australia their evening is our morning. But it has 17 live classes with me and Joy, 4 evening classes with me and Joy, umpteen handouts that we put into slide presentations, so you can download them and print them out, so you can look at the processes that we're using and have them with you forever and ever, so you can, if you want, build your own practice. If you don't want to, you can just work on yourself and your friends. But the classes in the evening are this time, 6 o'clock Pacific time, and the classes in the morning are 6:30 a.m. Pacific time, simply because then people can do them before they go to work if they have a job. And they're all recorded, so you can do it anytime you want. We have people that listen live in the morning, but they can't make the evening classes because maybe their work shift or their kids are home or whatever. And so they watch those, in the recordings. And I found that the recordings are every bit as strong in the intention as the live days are. So in that, if you are interested in holographic healing level 4, we're going to give you a little incentive that you could register for that. We're going to start it on January the 10th. And that's the evening classes on Thursdays. The morning classes will start on Friday mornings, and will go from Friday until the 30th of January. That's 21 days intensive. And if you make a decision to do that, we're going to give you the 21-day to optimal health. Or if you've already purchased that, because there was a special for the holidays, if you've already purchased the optimal health, we can give you one of our other 21-day programs. 21 Days to Freedom from Addiction is also a really good program. Now, we also have a closed Facebook group. This time we're going to combine all holographic healing 1, 2, and 3 into one Facebook group and invite everybody to handle that. And I'll be on there every day. Joy will be on there every day, answering questions, helping people learn how to develop those muscles of the intuition, helping people learn how to develop their inner sight so they can do that. I've worked with people that have macular degeneration, that were blind and now they're driving. I've heard of other people doing the same process. It's a simple process that anybody can learn. And this holographic healing is about practicing it. So what we're actually going to do for 21 days is we're going to take real people. If you're registered, or we'll take volunteers if we don't have people that want to share their innermost problems, and we will put them back into alignment. All of that is about a $680 value that right now until the 8th or something of January, you can get it for $566. And we take payments. It doesn't even have to be paid for before the class is over, because that's how important that we think that this is that, can you imagine somebody that I've worked with people that have, you know, cancerous brain tumors, and we were able to disintegrate the tumor. I've worked with people that have stomach polyps that have diagnosed with cancer, and we were able to disintegrate the cancerous tumors in their stomach. I've worked with people that have degenerative disc disease. Robbie, who's on there, the doctor said she needed to have a surgery. And we're working on a whole book when we get time on her process of the healing, that she doesn't have to have the surgery now. I mean, it's just, can you tell I'm excited about it?
Hey, Marilyn, let me just ask you a couple questions about the program that I think people might want to know.
Okay.
Let's say they haven't taken any of the holographic healing classes yet. And this is really a hands-on program, even though we do it remotely over the Zoom. How does that work for them?
We are recommending that you take at least one. This is the first time we're trying it this way. We're recommending that you take at least one of the other levels. Any of the levels. 1 is an introductory, 2 is Akashic Records, and 3 is remote viewing, quantum vision. It's not required because that's how strongly we feel about it. But because of that, we're offering the other courses at huge 33% off, or if you get more than one, I think it's half off, huge discounts, depending upon whether you get level 1, 2, or 3, or maybe all 3. The huge discounts are really because we feel that how important it is. It's not, again, it's not required that you do 1, 2, or 3, but it is recommended because we're going to start right at the giddy up. We're going to, you can tell I'm from Missouri. We're going to have 1 day of review, and then we're going to go right into practicing on people, and I'll take people through the process, and people in the course that feel comfortable enough will take other people through the process, and I'll be right there to coach them. We'll try this and do this and work with that, and this course, the 21 days, is really about practicing the mastery that is truly within you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Another question I have is, it's actually Daniel's asking about the Akash. Was that, let's see, that was holographic healing too, right? When we went
Correct.
into the Akash. Okay.
Yeah, it was actually a 20-day course. We tried it, and we didn't do it every day for 21 days. We did it 3 times a week for 5 weeks or 6 weeks, something like that. And yeah, it was a course. It's not the Leverage Your Akash, Daniel, that we just did in Miami, although that was a little bit of it. But this one is about going into the Akashic Records and applying what you see in the Akashic Records into your emotional body so you can release those patterns and learn from those issues. Any other questions?
I just think that, it's so powerful when people, when we practice on people live like that. I know for the last holographic healing, I was fascinated in watching the woman at the very end who had the, was it the tumor? And then, oh no, it was kidney failure or urinary tract failure or something like that. And she was like in a dire condition. And the whole, everybody who was in the class started intending, what was it? Every time they went to the bathroom and had to urinate, they had to like see this woman healthy. And I know that sounds really ridiculous, but you know what? It worked.
It works.
It really worked.
Yes. Yes. If they want more information, Joy, can you put the landing page in the chat window that will give them more information about it?
Our amazing Julie, she's already on it. She pasted if you check the chat window, now this won't be good for the replay. We'll have to put it on the hub page. But if you check the chat window, you'll see the actual offer in the chat window and the URL to go to the sign up page. And if you're
make payments.
yeah, and you'll also be getting an email, you know, with this offer since you signed up for this this webinar. Now I want to, you know, we're getting to the our 90-minute window, and Adironda hasn't come out and we haven't done any Q&As yet. So we've got to deliver on the rest of what we promised as well.
All right, so let me get out of the way. I clear and seal the space around each person that listens to this in the now and in the future. So only energies from the light can enter. I know all that is said is for the highest good and highest joy of all who hear this broadcast, live or in the future. I ask to step aside my own personal beliefs and paradigms, so the information is clear and concise. I open the Akashic records. For this I give thanks. So it is good day to you, huh? Oh, very good to see your energy, your light, your brightness, your divine presence, dearest beings of light. We wish for you to know that all that you need is within you. It just gets the opportunity to come to the surface. And we wish to help with that. We are actually, during this course, we're upgrading your software in your brain. We're upgrading the software in the core of your being so you can see, sense, feel, hear, and know more effectively. And so you don't have to be a channel like the Vessel Marilyn or a divine link, as we call her. Instead, you get the opportunity to be you. You see, we are coming into times when traditional medicine is not going to be quite as effective as alternative medicine. There were several $billion spent in the past year in alternative medicine, more than in traditional medicine. Your own abilities are exactly what is coming into the world right now. There will come a time when those abilities of intuition, those abilities to be able to put your hands on something to stop the bleeding of another, that to put your hands on something to see where the bone needs to be mended and how to accelerate that process. You see, dearest beings of light, this is the evolutionary step of humanity. This is the action-oriented focus. You and your innate abilities, you are the new human. You are the superhuman. We just think the Vessel Marilyn and the Joy like the capes. But you see, it is about accelerating your own superness, your own imposed energy of clarity, so you can know and trust those abilities, those energies that are coming so close to you that they are moving through you to others if you have your own practice, or to yourself. You understand what we say? And to know that sometimes that there's an emotional component that gets your attention. And it's not until you hit upon that emotional component that the dis-ease or the imbalance, as we prefer, aligns itself back. So trust that energy. Trust yourself and learn to know that you may not have had much new tonight, but we implore you to put it to good use, to put it to the strength of you. You understand what we say? We know that there are questions going through the question box, and we want to be sure that you have that energy and that information. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide you with a bit of an activation so you can feel that energy. And this is how it works in holographic healing, which the vessel Marilyn has done for 20 years. And we came on the scene to magnify that energy. But you do not have to channel a being from the 17th dimension in order to utilize it. Our vessel Marilyn is really the healing practitioner. We just accelerate that energy for your benefit. Take a deep breath. We're going to place our hands on the front and back of your heart chakra. We're going to ask that as you feel that warmth or that sensation, that your heart sort of clears some old emotional trauma that you're ready to be done with, that it beats with the perfection of intensity that it was designed to beat with. We clear both sides, the right valve, the left valve, the aortic valve. You might feel it in your heart. You might sense it. Or you might sense our presence there. Breathe into it. Ask to have released trauma that no longer serves from the imprints of your heart, to balance the confidence so that you can trust your intuitive guidance and rest deeply, always in divine perfection. Take a deep breath. Allow your heart to expand, connect with the hundreds of individuals that will hear this now or virtually in the future, and that they will feel the expansion of your heart as well. Circle the planet heart to heart. For this we are grateful. Just nod your head with thank you. Nod your head with gratitude as we bring your body, your heart, your energy back into that place of balance. Ah. You have a question, yes, about anything?
Let's see. We do have a couple questions, Adironda.
Yes.
I'm not sure this has to do with the webinar, but it is kind of an interesting question. Why does Adironda say every time we've come such a long way to see you? I thought it was instantaneous. What are the distances in the dimensions? How far away is the 17th dimension from, say, the 12th?
Well, you know, that is a very good question. And in physical reality, it is right next door. But in energetic connection, it feels very far away, because you see the earth dimension goes through the third and the fourth and the fifth right now. And then the energy comes through for the 12th or the 13th. They've proven now 12 different dimensions and are moving on to the 144th. We see it is not distance that we are talking about. We were guided by the source of all that is to come to this planet and assist with the shift. It was quite a journey, just not in linear miles, because everything is simultaneous, but in the energy that first we had to find a being of light, a human, that we could indeed communicate through, that could hold our energy. For you see, we have no form ourselves, no body. And we are from the angelic realm and the 17th dimension of that realm. So it feels like it is long ways from here. However, our vessel Marilyn jokes about saying, well, you go to the third galaxy on the right and then you turn left and it's the second galaxy there. Well, it is not really where it is, because the dimensions are all happening simultaneously to this dimension. So that is a very fair question. Why do you say we've come so far? It took us a while to find the vessel Marilyn, and she went into the 17th dimension, unbeknownst to her at the time, to connect with us. And that is why it seems like it is such a great distance, but it is not distance in miles or linear energy. It is distance in intention, that we were guided many years ago to come to this planet to assist you in feeling what it feels like to be held in unconditional love. And the distance that we came took a while to locate. And again, it is not linear time or space. And it is simultaneous. You can call upon us and we will be there with you immediately. We don't need that realm of distance. We know that's not a clear answer to your question, but we will continue to ask why we say we've come so far. But you see, our angelic realm, where we are connected from, have evolved beyond the physical form. But if we came here just as mist, we don't know that anyone would talk to us. They might sock us up in a vacuum cleaner somewhere and we would be in a bag. And that is why it took a time for us to arrive. Does that help, huh? Next question.
That was fascinating.
Yes. Well, you can put that in the book, huh?
Yeah. The next question is, remind me how to connect to the viewing energy. I think that they're referring to the remote viewing energy.
To the remote viewing, that you get the opportunity to let your mind rest. Let your mind rest. And that you allow your vision, your energy, your sensing, your seeing, your feeling, your hearing, your knowing to go into another space. And then trust what you are getting. And it is about that practice. And that is exactly what we're going to spend 21 days practicing, is how to know that you've lit upon the Akashic records correctly, how to sense that you look in someone and you see a bubble on something red and you don't know what it is because you're not a scientist or a doctor, and know how to intuitively rearrange that so that bubble disappears if that is in their highest good, or expands if it is not in their highest good. We have worked with people that have had an aneurysm in their blood vein, and the doctors say, well, you have to have surgery on that right now, and that was a few years ago, and otherwise it's going to burst and blah, blah, blah. And that was a few years ago, and they did not have the surgery and are still alive and still working very well and accommodating that. So it is a difficult thing to explain, and that is why we're spending 21 days practicing on it, so you can catch it just by being present. Next question.
Is meditation the only way to quiet the mind during the day? My mind never stops. It seems I am inundated by energies all day, yet I have no trouble sleeping.
Good that you do not have trouble sleeping. The way to quiet the mind is almost like a distraction. You can quiet the mind in many ways. Our vessel Marilyn quiets her mind by driving on long trips. You see, because she drives places where they don't have much traffic, and her mind, because she's on autopilot, right? And her mind goes and creates wonderful ideas. So when you are going through a process where your body knows what to do, washing the dishes, coloring on a picture, or your body is expanding, your mind, you can get the time to the energy, the feeling of that stillness. And that is when the ideas come, is in that still energy. When you have the chattery mind and your mind is always going 10,000 miles a minute, that is where we attempt to slow that process down. And you can do that by doing something remotely. You know, the Joy walks up to the 14,000 foot peak that she hikes up to, and that clears her mind, so she's very focused on her present moment. And that is what you get the opportunity to focus on. And that is one technique that when there's a technique that is called the candle thing, where you light a candle and you focus totally on the flame, and every single time you distract yourself from the flame, you put a little hash mark down. You don't, berate yourself because you're not focusing on that flame, but instead it's just about noticing how many other thoughts can come in, and see if those thoughts are trails that you need to follow, or those thoughts are distractions that you get the opportunity to breathe into and let go. Next question.
The next question is, how does self-healing differ from energetically healing another person?
Sometimes it is easier to look into someone else's body than it is to look into your own body. It is the same process. It is just a little more, when you're looking into your own body, sometimes your own emotional component steps into play. And when you're looking into someone else's body, many times you're not as emotionally attached. And so that is how that separation is. Now, when we are working on practicing mastery in the 21-day program for Holographic Healing 4, we are working on both. During Holographic Healing 3, we worked on someone that eventually, she had a stroke and she could not walk. And what we saw in the class was exactly what the doctor stated. And when she took those x-rays, that is when she began getting better. So, but she could not see it herself. it is more difficult to look inside of your own body. Now, we say that, and now so Marilyn is saying, change your bracelet. It is not, it is your purchase order, by saying it is more difficult, becomes true. So instead, state that it is just as easy to look into your own body and rearrange things as it is to look into someone else's body. And that is what we are practicing on in Holographic Healing 4. Next question.
Let's see. How will Holographic Healing 4 build on Holographic Healing 3, 2, and 1? Will it be pretty different? I really liked Holographic Healing 3.
Holographic healing, it is more like Holographic Healing 3 than the other two, because the first one was very powerful, very much, but it showed everyone what the possibilities were. Holographic Healing 2 were about going into the dimensional realm of the Akashic and applying that information. Holographic Healing 3, Quantum Vision, was getting that setup of the remote viewing muscle. And Holographic Healing 4 is by utilizing all three of the other techniques and building upon it together to practice, practice, practice. That is how you get to Carnegie Hall, or that is how you get to be a professional practitioner or to heal your own body. We like Holographic Healing 3 too. And we liked 2 and we liked 1.
Me too. Next question.
Next question. Well, time for one more, huh?
Okay. In holographic healing through our intuition, are our guides and you, beings from the dimensions, also aiding in the healing?
That is a good question, because we believe your guides are within you always. We may not be within you always. You do not have to become a channel of Aronda in order to heal. You just get the opportunity to expand your intuition, to accept the information and trust the information that you are seeing, sensing, feeling, hearing, and knowing. You do not need us or your guides, because your guides are already there. And so it becomes that energy of connection. You see what we say? Becomes that focus, that vibration that is within you in your innate ability. And in your innate ability, that is where this is all being expanded. You do not have to channel a being from another dimensional realm to be a good healing practitioner. Our vessel Marilyn was a profound healing practitioner before we ever came on the scene. We just magnify that energy for her so we can work in groups of 1,000 or more, and they will still feel that energy. You see what we say?
Mm-hmm.
We want you to know that you each are capable. You each can go interdimensional into your body or to someone else's. And our dear vessel Marilyn and the Joy have lit upon a technique that is learnable, trainable, and can shift the consciousness of this planet. And that is your job as well as theirs. You are the next evolutionary step on this planet. You are the healing practitioners that are shifting the consciousness. We know sometimes it is difficult to believe that that is possible. And yet that is what we are teaching you, is to have the confidence in your own gifts, your own skills, so you will know exactly what to do when the time is right. We love you deeply. We see who you are. We honor you. I bid you namaste. Namaste.
Thank you, everybody, as we wait for Marilyn to come back. Thank you so much for spending your Wednesday evening with us. We're always so grateful to have you online with us. It's one of our favorite ways to end the day. And for those of you in other parts of the world who are spending your morning with us, we're grateful for you just as much. The offer for the holographic healing class is in the chat window. And if you're watching the replay, we will put it on the hub page for you as well. You'll also be receiving an email with this information. I hope you get to join us. It's a great way to start 2019. And it's fun. It's like powerful community. And also, I want to remind you that January 1st, we have our annual New Year's Day broadcast. It's always an amazing, profound experience because Marilyn and I get to be in Branson with Randy Luna. And the activations that come out of January 1st are always just, it's something that I put on my phone and download regularly. So thank you so much for joining us. We are grateful for you. We appreciate you. And is there anything you want to say, Marilyn, before I sign off here?
Well, I just was looking at the chat window, thanks to Julie. And the broadcast it'll be up on YouTube as well. And I'll have to see how I can put a link in it.
Yeah, the class, the Holographic Healing 4 class, I just saw that thank you, Julie, for putting everything in the chat window. Julie is I don't even want to call her an assistant because she's like so amazing and I love having her. She's like my partner. But she's the one who's putting all the information in the chat window. And the class starts January 10th and it runs through the end of the month. And it's the only time this year you'll be able to join Marilyn online and myself for 21 days because we don't have another 21. I don't even think we have another 3 days that we could be online with you after that.
That's right.
You have to come see us live.
We love you all very much. Thank you for spending your Wednesday with us. Namaste, y'all.
Namaste.